to Learning Strategist. I'm Jay Doughton, Miss Doughton for you lot. And this is my adorable
Anais, Pezzana.
My daughter, kind of, well, don't bother with the head tie. I'm joining the students. Welcome to Learning Strategist, Anais. Anais was, how should I say, a past student of mine, adopted daughter. And Anais, we are now at the University of Kent. I'm in the student dorm. And we are here to talk about her path, her journey. She's currently studying finance and accounting. No? That was her first degree.
Yes, that was my first degree. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And the master's is?
Finance, investment and risk.
Finance, investment and risk.
Yes.
Dollars, pounds, yen. So I'm going to start off. I want Anais to talk primarily about student loans because I know many of you are confused about student loans. I am to a certain extent. I started to research it for my sixth form students and couldn't get my head around it totally, and started to get my head around it and then contacted Anais, who had a brilliant explanation, because there is the fear of going to study and having this massive debt behind you. And there is massive debt, isn't there? There is. So you start off borrowing how much?
Depending on your course.
Okay.
Normally, when I started, it was about 9,000 a year.
And how long ago was that?
That was in 2015. But now it's gone up to 9,250 a year. So I think they are trying to increase this space only as much as they can. So maybe by the time you start, it will be 10,000 a year. Who knows? But that's just for the tuition fees.
Okay.
For an undergraduate degree.
And that's generally for most undergraduate
degrees. Undergraduate degrees.
And of course, if you're doing medicine or you're doing law, it's a little bit more.
Depending on where you go.
And depending on your university. Mm-hmm. So students, what you have to think about, what subjects are you studying, which university you're going to, mm-hmm. how much it's going to cost. Yeah. So 9,250 in 2020.
Yes.
Oh, good heavens, and I was thinking it was still at 9,000. So you take out a loan for 9,000. Yes. You're studying for a 3-year degree or a 4-year degree.
Yes.
It's 9,000 a year.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking basic maths, 3 9s, or 27,000 mm-hmm. or 27 plus if it's 9,250. Is that it? No. Okay. So explain.
Okay. So as a student, you have the base rate, which is your tuition fees, right? So the student loan company normally gives you money for your student fees as well as maintenance costs, okay. which the maintenance cost varies across your household income.
Right.
So depending on how much both your parents make together, if they live in the same household, it tends to vary how much they give you as a maintenance grant, because they split the maintenance cost between maintenance grant and maintenance loan.
Oh, so you can have a grant which you don't have to pay back?
Yes.
And the loan you have to pay back. So this is on top of the 9,000 plus yes. that you would take up. And the 9,200 whatever is for the study alone.
It's just for the fees. So that's 2 sets. Well, 3 sets, but into 2 sets. Because you have the grant, yes. maintenance loan, and then the tuition fees, which are the 3 main loans that you get.
Okay.
And then the student finance company gives you the opportunity to select how much money you want. It's either you want a full loan or you want partial loans, because some people can afford to pay some of it.
Right.
And then, depending on your financial situation.
Okay. Yeah. So let us go with, we're taking out the full loan.
Yes.
As in the loan for the course mm-hmm. plus your maintenance.
Yes.
Let's round that up to, say, that comes up to 12,000.
No, the loan just for the course.
The course and the maintenance.
It's usually more.
Oh, okay.
Because depending as well, it also depends. So they have 2 categories in terms of how much you get for maintenance grant and the loan. Mm-hmm. So for students who live in London, it's usually more, because of course the cost of living in London is more than if you were to live outside of London. So
if you go to university outside of London, it's going to be less?
It's less, yes.
Okay.
So the maximum I believe you can get is up to 9,000 and something. I don't know exactly the figures.
Right.
That's if you're living in London. But if you're living outside of London, it's usually about end of like high 7,000 to 8,000 maximum.
This is in terms of the maintenance?
Both. For both the maintenance and for both maintenance, so the grant and the loan.
Yes.
So the maximum you can get depends on where you are. So it's either, if you're in London, you can get up to 9,000 and something. But if you're outside of London, it's up to 8,000 and something. But then the figures just change every year.
Good heavens.
Yes. So if you want to go for the full loan, so you have the 9,000 plus, let's say if you live in London, another 9,000 on top of the 9,000. So about 18,000 a year approximately. That's only if you're in London.
But that maintenance grant and loan can go up to 9,000.
Which most students tend to take the full amount.
Good Lord. So already you're starting off at,
let's say approximately 15,000 and more.
For that one first year?
For the first year, 15,000 and more.
And you have not added interest on as yet?
That's without interest.
Okay, so tell us about the interest.
So the way it works is that the moment they make the first payment into your account, which is usually in September, you have interest that accrues on the loan that you owe to the government that you have taken. So if that year you have taken a loan of, let's say 15,000, but then they pay normally in 3 branches. So, because you normally have 3 terms a year. So they normally divide the money into 3 because, some students will be reckless by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So they normally divide the money into 3. So you may have, let's say, 5,000. That's just for the, you may have, let's say, if you take 4,000 or 5,000 in terms of maintenance, it will be divided into 3, of course, and then that amount is divided then. And so from the first payment that they make into your account, the interest starts to accrue based on the interest rate that is being charged on that particular year, because it changes as well. From when I started, it was about 3.1% when I started. And I think right now it's about 6%. Don't take my word for it, because it could have changed as well. And so they accrue that from the first moment they make the payment into your accounts.
So as a finance student, just basically, is this accruing every day, or this is just a year?
I have heard, I think, because I haven't actually checked myself, some people say it accrues on a daily basis, but the yearly, in order for something to accrue on a yearly basis, it has to accrue on a daily basis, or it accrues every minute or every second.
Okay,
in order to get to the yearly. So technically, you can say it accrues on a daily basis.
But we, for simplicity, would say maybe 3% or 4% or whatever per year that you're building up. So on top of that capital of 15,000, you are accruing interest every year that you spend at university.
Yes.
Take note. So this is I understand now.
I mean, the interest is actually accrued until you finish paying.
So I leave university and I'm paying back.
Because you still haven't paid the money. So the interest is still accruing because you owe the government money.
Okay.
And so they still accruing that money even when you leave.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is this in terms of I don't actually start repaying my loan until I get a job over a certain amount, paying it over the salary over amount. But as you said, if I get a job paying under that, my interest is still accruing until I get to that salary amount when I start paying back.
That's right.
Some people would say they're not too worried because they may never have to pay it back. But in reality, you want to be on a salary that you can support yourself.
Yes. Bearing in mind the threshold is 25,000. And
as in average salary.
The average salary, no, in order for you to start repaying the loan, you have to earn a minimum of 25,000. So anything above the 25,000, then that's where you start to make the repayments. And that repayment is currently charged at 9% a year. So let's say, assuming you make 30,000 a year, right? So the payments will be made on the differences between what you make and the threshold. So the threshold is 25,000, so you'll be making 9% payment on 5,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
As opposed to the whole thing. So you'll be forever paying off.
Yeah, but normally the tenure of the payment is supposed to be 30 years. So yeah.
Okay. So the objective really is to increase your salary, your income, where you are, obviously, you want to support yourself, you want to have a family, if you want to have a family, you want to travel. It's something you incorporate as part of living debt.
Yes.
If you're sensible.
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to touch on that because that is something that concerns a lot of students. And I know personally of students who have said, I don't want that debt on my head. So my series is the alternative. University studies, definitely. And what's the alternative? Apprenticeships, private institutions where you are specializing in a particular area of study, be it accounting, and you're working and studying to get a professional certificate, be it banking, where you're working and getting a professional certificate in banking, etc. So hopefully the series will build and give you insight into those areas. And I will be doing a series in terms of those who have become wealthy through academics. And when I say through academics, they studied, but you would find they went into areas such as commerce, finance, some form of STEM. So it'd be engineering, physics, or something. And there's always the mathematical element. So I tell students, I don't like maths either, but it cropped back up again in my first degree, stats. And I think it's something you have to conquer your fear. Yes, be prepared if you are weak, team up with someone who is stronger, or pay a tutor.
Yes.
You know, it is a part of our life, especially if you are looking to progress in the academics in that area, in terms of finance, etc. But we'll come back to that. But for now, we are going to focus on Anais, her studies, her journey, her discoveries in the world of finance. So my next question to you is that I knew you from 16. I don't know if you want to say your age.
But I'm going to be 23 this year. By July, we are in February.
Yes, we are. So you started, I met you in sixth form, really and truly. And what subjects were you studying?
At that point, I studied mathematics in AS. I studied business, level 3 tech, and I studied information technology and French. But then I dropped to maths, and it was not the right move.
We will come to that. It was not the right move, but I think there were mitigating circumstances where that was concerned, if I remember correctly. But mathematics comes back to finance. What made you decide on finance and accounting? Since we were going through, you did business and technicals, and I'm going to tell you that's a brilliant area to go in. I know it is not rated as highly as A-level business. I teach both. I think it's for a different learning style. Sometimes schools do push students who they think are not as strong academically into the BTEC, but I'm not going to market BTEC right now, but Anais can attest. It gives you a broad overview into the world of commerce.
I agree.
And I think much broader, in a different way, not necessarily much broader. Broader in the sense that you do more research in business technical, especially if you have a good teacher like myself. But anyhow, moving on. What made you decide on finance?
I think as part of the areas in which was covered in business level 3 tech, we actually did cover finance.
And I remember who taught you that.
Mrs. Smith. And we also covered accounting, which I like the finance aspect of it, and that was one of the reasons why I decided, apart from external pushes as well, that was also one of the main reasons why I found it interesting. You found it interesting, but would you say it was a passion at that time? I would say I wanted to explore more, because every other area which I covered, it was not something that I was that interested compared to how I felt with finance. And I also liked IT as well. And so, but then I didn't want to do IT because I knew it was going to be a bit more challenging. And because I have known people who have done finance, it was easier for me to go down that route compared to having to go through the route of IT, because I know these have always been the 2 areas in which I've always had interest in, having studied those areas. And I agree with regards to the fact that having to do level 3 BTEC was give you exposure in more aspects than having to do business studies. Yeah. Because we had a lot more areas in which you can say, actually, I'm more interested in finance, and I'm interested in accounting, or all of these other areas which were not actually covered had I done just normal business studies. Yes. I'm going to get back to jump forward just a little bit to jump back again about the challenging aspect. Because now that Anais is doing her master's in finance, is it not challenging? The master's itself? The finance. Isn't it even more challenging now? Oh, definitely, because you go from this very basic knowledge to having, for example, in my degree, they expect us to have to know a lot of things. So there's a lot of assumed knowledge in order for you to be told something. Because the lecturers do not start from the basics, they start from a certain level. So they assume this is in the undergraduate degree? Both. Oh, I mean, as much as the undergraduate degree, because I studied accounting and finance. So first and second year were primarily accounting modules. And then when I went to third year, it was primarily finance modules. So they assumed that we already know certain things. And what if you didn't? it was an opportunity for you to learn to get to that point.
How did you do that? How would you do that if they're not going to teach you? They come in assuming you should know.
Mhm.
What strategies? How do you get to know what you don't know?
I think it has to be. That's where, okay, because for example, when you come to uni, they tell you that you have to have 300 hours per module. And you only have
For the
about,
term, 300
for
hours?
the whole year.
Okay.
And you only have about, I would say, 36 hours of contact with the lecturers. So the difference between the goal that you're supposed to meet
Mhm.
and what they actually currently giving you, that's what they call independent study. And within that independent study, that's when you're supposed to catch up with those areas in which you don't know to get to the level that they are teaching you at. Which a lot of students are not willing to do.
Many of them, first year, I'm going to party.
It's not that easy. Trust me, if you come with the mindset of having to party, boy, you're going to party your way into failure.
Okay, now we don't want to cram. University life is fun.
It is fun, don't get me wrong, but you have to find a balance.
Yes, and that requires maturity. This is not so much on the fun part. I think everybody can find fun wherever. But I do believe, think about it, if you are in sixth form now watching this video, you would know there was a big jump between GCSEs and sixth form. Think about that for your undergraduate degree. Also, if you have managed to survive your first year in sixth form, then you have learned, or you're starting to learn, the balance. Because I know sixth formers, you party like crazy, but you have to have that balance, and you have to think of your degree as a stepping stone, not the end all and be all, but it is another stepping stone to where you want to go. So it was about your subjects you chose in sixth form that had an influence, as well as the external. I just wanted to touch on that a bit. It was family that kind of influenced you, as opposed to saying, I have this great love, blah, blah, blah. But what I picked up was key. You had an interest and you wanted to explore more. And I think this is very important, as opposed to, I just have this love, when you haven't really experienced anything. So you want to learn more. So let's go back.
So I just want to say, when you said I have an interest, not because you have an interest in something doesn't mean it's going to be easy. You still have to work in order to get to a certain level.
Yeah.
So it still will not be easy.
Yes, it wouldn't. So let's go back.
Okay.
What were your expectations of university life before you got there? And what did you find? So what did you expect university was going to give you?
To be honest, I didn't have that many expectations, but one thing that I know I wanted was more like I wanted to learn, and even though sometimes I found at different points that my wanting to learn was not the same as what the quality of learning which I received. Does it make sense?
So you're saying university didn't really give you that?
Exactly. University doesn't. You have to do most of the learning for yourself. So, okay, I think what I'm trying to get at is that there was no spoon feeding.
Okay.
It was more like you are learning.
Like you were spoon fed in sixth form.
Yes.
Okay.
Because usually in school at sixth form, if you have a project to do, the lecturers or the teachers will give you sources. They will give you this. They will tell you what to do. But here, if you have, let's say, a coursework, the teacher will tell you, I cannot help you. You have to figure it out. Because if they tell you, they are the ones marking it. If they tell you, then they're giving you the answers. You can ask questions that are not related to the project directly.
Okay.
Yeah. Which was a bit of a shocker for me, because I was thinking, if I come to use, because I don't know. But then that's good, because it kind of ignites your critical thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
That would have been, I think, a massive step coming from a school like our school that you were at, where we would be behind you to do that coursework. You missed the deadline, this is not happening, why, blah blah blah, or calling up your parents, such and such. Anais, not that I ever had to do that with Anais. She was very good, I must say. Anais was very, very focused, much quieter than what you're seeing now, much quieter, but very focused. But the general thing is as a student, school call. Even if you got a detention for not doing the work, school would be calling your parents, school would be running you down. Some schools like ours, you'd have a teacher coming to pick you up on your last lesson of class. This is not going to happen at university.
It is not. So that was one of the other things that I've realized in terms of expectations.
Mhm.
If you don't submit your work, you get 0. There's no such
Yes! I wish I could do that sometimes, not meaning to be mean, but the world is
thing.
not
Yes, because
a cushion.
exactly. If you go into the world of work, you have a presentation due, you don't have any excuse because they have options. If you don't do it, somebody else will do it.
Yeah.
So if you don't submit the work on time, you get 0. There's no two way about it. But then in school, they will call your parents, they will make sure they run after you. The lecturers will not ask you whether you've done your seminar work, which is like your homework or whatever.
Yeah.
They will not ask you whether you've done your homework. They probably don't care whether you do.
Less marking for them.
Yes, exactly. So some students do not submit their work because I have a friend in which, yeah, she literally, I don't think it took her time in order for her to catch up to the fact that nobody would chase you to submit your work. If you don't submit, you fail. You either get 0 or you fail. You can submit a concession, which is basically trying to explain why you not submit on time. But usually, unless you have an extremely valid reason, there's no excuse. You will fail.
And keep in mind, folks, this is business. You're paying for this.
Exactly. Get your money's worth.
Get your money's worth. So, that moving on. For your finance, because I'm asking these questions because Anais is using this course as well, her undergraduate course and her postgraduate course, her master's, as part of the chart, the path towards her career, which she has started already. We'll come to that. I am looking at, okay, you've chosen a particular study. It has modules. How are you benefiting from learning these modules, basically? So we do finance. What are the other, that's what the course is called. What are the key modules?
So for my undergrad or for my
undergrad?
master's? So for example, in my undergrad, in first year, I had a basic introduction to a lot of modules. So I did economics, I did financial accounting, I did mathematics. So anything stats and maths, I did that. And then I did a business module. It was just a random business module, like introduction to management. And then in my second year, I did.
I'm just holding the thought. The first year, I think it still is this way, but you can confirm. First year never counts towards your final degree.
Doesn't.
It is just that those introductory modules to understand the course. But you have to pass the first year to go on to the second year. But your marks isn't part of your final. The real thing starts in the second year.
Yes.
Good.
However, a lot of students who have tried to use that mindset, it has more worked out in their favor, especially if you are looking for placements or internships in your first year. You are required to get at least a 2-1 by most companies. So technically, a pass is not sufficient.
But a pass, this is a pass in your first year, shouldn't matter.
It doesn't matter towards your degree.
Yes.
But when it comes to looking for internships for, let's say, your
I
second
did not
year.
know this.
Yeah. For your second year, you have to get a 2-1 at least.
Okay, and what I didn't say at the beginning of this video was that Anais's course was a sandwich course. What do you call them? Sandwich courses?
Yeah, placement.
Yeah, so she had a placement. And I think, especially in these areas, it is best to look for those sort of courses. So your degree was 4 years,
4 years.
as opposed to 3 years.
Yes.
Because she went into work experience 4 year.
Yeah.
And I think that's better.
So, yes, it does, because it gives you exposure into the field that you think you're interested in,
Mm-hmm.
and after that, knowing whether you're interested into that area or not, which was very, very helpful for me.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for you to get there, you have to get a certain grade
In the first year.
In the first year,
Yes.
because you tend to apply before you finish your second year, so that as soon as you're done with your second year, because usually the job will start before you even get your results for the second year.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm learning too. Learning strategist. Right, that is interesting. So in that, we're going to come to that work experience.
Yeah.
But in the studies where the modules counted, what would you say in finance were those crucial modules that were the turning point into a deeper insight into this world of finance?
Okay, so I'm just going to mention some of the modules I did in my second year. So
Okay.
in my second year, I did strategic management, I did management accounting 1, and I did financial accounting 2, and I did principles of finance, which was the only core finance module that I had in second year. And in third year, and now in my final year, so after then I went away for the placement, and then my final year when I came back, because of some of the things that I did, we had the options to choose the modules that we wanted
To finalize it.
to finalize it. So because I had done accounting in first and second year, so I decided to go for the finance modules, which were fixed income markets, futures and options, which are derivative markets, finance with Excel, business finance, and taxation.
And were any of those modules the areas that said, ooh, I am definitely in the right field?
Definitely. Actually, I would say in my final year, all of the modules I did in my final year, I thought it was the right combination for me. Because doing accounting and finance, I benefited from both sides of the degree.
Okay.
Because taxation is really important in finance. Because let's say if you have, for example, in finance, if you sell shares, if you sell financial instruments, you have to tax it. And it's really important for you to know how the taxing is being done. Because then a lot of companies, a lot of like investment managers, they tend to advise clients on investment products based on the tax, based on how they are being taxed.
Right.
For example, municipal bonds, they are not taxed. So depending on the type of, instrument an investor wants in their portfolio, they can go for those type of bonds or those type of instruments because it's not being taxed, so it's kind of saving you some money.
Okay.
So that one is important for finance, and then every other thing was finance related.
What's the difference between finance and accounting? How would you?
Okay, I would say, for example, the accounting one, the most because you can qualify to become a chartered accountant. So you have the ACCA, which is the top in this country, is the top accounting body in order to qualify from. And so with those ones, you have to have at least 12 exams covered. And in my course, I did about 8 of them.
Okay.
So that means I've already got exemptions in which I only have to do, I believe, 4. I mean, I'm supposed to do 4, but then they gave me an extra exemption, so I only have to do 3 more in order to qualify.
Because our grades were really quite good.
In order to qualify as an accountant. And so, but then accounting is more having to analyze, having to compile financial statements.
Okay.
And then a financial analyst would use those statements to make financial decisions.
And those statements would be cash flow, profit and loss, or the income statement, and the balance sheet.
And then the changes in the statement of changes in equity. So you see how some of the major, let's say, dividends or share capital, how it changed over a year. And it's very important as well. And then, so as a finance analyst, I would use those information to make investment decisions. So I can use the ratios and then analyze the state of the company and see how the company is doing. So, and make a decision, is this company worth investing in?
So the study of finance, so the study of accounting, I have to know the nitty-gritty of what money is coming into the business, what money is going out, and I am responsible for these statements, creating these statements, measuring the wealth of the company, measuring whether or not the company is making a profit and loss, and accounting for, without using the word accounting, recording where money is coming into the business from, where money is going out of the business.
Exactly.
So finance is dealing with what then?
So now finance, you analyze those data.
So finance is more about analysis.
And you use those data to make decisions.
Such as, should I invest here? Should I merge with this company, etc.?
So for example, let's take Marks and Spencer's. And we know that Marks and Spencer's is closing their stores right now.
Yes.
You know, there's a lot going on with them, I can see. So now if I take a Marks and Spencer's profit and loss account and balance sheet, I can see the changes in over the years.
Okay.
And then I can use like financial ratios in order to make decisions in terms of looking at the health of this company. Is it worth me investing into this? What is likely to be my return on these investments? But then it's really hard to make a decision, such big decisions, without having to go to the accounting side of it.
Okay, I hope that is clear for you.
Yeah, so that's why universities tend to offer both accounting and finance, because it used to be one or the other.
I remember, yes.
But then they realized that it's really important to have
both of them, because you can't have one without the other. But you can specialize in your career of going one route or the other.
Yes.
And for both of them, Anais mentioned about the ACCA. And these are professional bodies that you really should register with if you are going to be considered a professional in the real world.
Yes.
So either when you go out to work, you do it yourself or your company sponsors you. and you will become a professional accountant or professional financial analyst. And what is the main body in the UK for the financial analyst? Is it ACCA as well?
No, the ACCA is more for accounting.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would not necessarily say in the UK, but worldwide you have the CFA. That's one of the very top 4. CFA, which stands
Yes,
for
Chartered Financial Accountant.
Analyst.
Oh, sorry. I knew that. I was
It's
just texting
alright.
the child.
So Chartered Financial Analyst is more like it's more like a US qualification, but it's
Okay.
globally recognized.
Because all the finances tie up, and if you are into commerce business, you will know that all of our banks are interdependent. US-based, interdependent. They're all connected to each other throughout Europe, UK, even though we Brexit, our banks are still connected and will remain connected, and to the US and to Canada to a certain extent.
To Canada, for example, some of the major banks, investment banks that we know in this country, JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, so Merrill Lynch, all of those. No, I think that is the UK one.
Okay,
most of
American.
these ones that are in this country and every other country are American based. That's why.
Okay, yes, and they borrow from each other, and hence with the 2008 financial crisis,
yes, the downfall of one
impacted
the downfall of the other one, which is one area of finance that a lot of people are focusing on, which is systemic risk. How one company affects the rest of the financial system.
Can you specialize in that area?
You can.
And that's big money, isn't it?
It is. Risk itself has become an extremely popular area in finance, which now you have the GRAP Association, which is like the Global Association for Risk Professional. They have a course which is the FRM, which is Financial Risk Management, because financial risk management is an extremely big interest now in finance.
Is that due to 2008?
Well, it became more prominent because of that.
Okay.
And then a lot of laws came out of it. Let's say the Dodd-Frank Act, which came after as a result of the risk, because a lot of companies were taking a lot of risks that were not being quantified properly. Mm-hmm. So now,
but you lot advise them to take the risk.
I mean, to a certain extent, but then the company itself can decide which way they want to go.
Yes, your work experience. So now we understand what finance and accounting is, why they're tied together at universities. And just as a reminder, this is the University of Kent, and I am in Anais' dorm. Thank you so much. Where did you have your work experience?
An insurance company.
Insurance, yes. Okay.
Company in the city.
In the city. What did you gain from there? What insights did you gain?
I learned quite a lot. For example, some of the system that we use, I've never gotten to learn about them here at uni. And I think one of my highlights was having to work on projects in North Africa. I was working
projects. So I'm going to come to this probably at the end of the video. Getting involved in projects through your university is crucial, important.
Mm-hmm. So as much as I was working with, I had my normal day-to-day activity that I had to conduct. Mm-hmm. I think my manager kind of, appreciated my work ethics, which gave me another stepping stone because I think because I was one of the only people who spoke French in the whole company, so it was easier for me to be able to embark in those projects because now It was insurance projects, so having to insure boats, and it was basically marine insurance related in North Africa, and they had a lot of big projects. And like for example, somebody who wants to insure a yacht in North Africa, or somebody wants to insure like an oil company in North Africa. Mm-hmm. And because of the language barrier, that was probably one of the main reasons why I was involved in those projects, which I think I would say that was one of my highlights.
Okay. French is Anais' first language, actually. Having a second language can be very beneficial.
Very beneficial.
Did you have to write letters or so forth?
Yes.
Okay, so you should learn the structure, not just the conversational.
Not just the conversation.
Okay, but having a basic structure, was it very formal language that you had to
some extent, but then some of the managers from those companies would actually come in the UK, which was easier because we would go into a board meeting, and to some extent it was a bit frightening because I was like the only tiny person there, and then you see like a board of like 20 men, and it's just like
very male-dominated field.
And I think in all of those board meetings I was the only female. Not only I was the only female, and I was the only young person, so to some extent it was a bit like
How did you handle that?
I think I used to like say to myself, be calm. Because there was talk about a lot of stuff, and then they would ask me, what do you think? And I'm just like,
Well, I think actually that is a positive for that particular organization
Yeah.
to ask a student, a young, inexperienced student as well, what they thought. And that's testament to your personality as well as what you projected
Yes.
and your research, your background. Because I remember meeting up with you and you would be doing work. She was studying. She was studying for some of those exams at ACCA, for those ACCA exams.
Oh dear.
Yes, it was a stressful time.
Yeah,
but
it was.
Because in the end, it is where you want to be.
Yeah.
And you're making the sacrifices. Because I'm going to say now, I'm going to kind of repeat it. When you are finished, more than likely, she will be starting on a salary 50 to 60. Were there any negatives? I'll be honest.
Like I said, because I was studying at the same time, it was very stressful. And I think that company was really accommodating because they knew they were working with students.
Okay.
So it was really easy to go through the day. For example, the manager will not let you stay in the office after 5 o'clock.
I want a job.
So they will not let you, as soon as it's 5 o'clock, they will tell, if you're still there, say, what are you doing in the office? So I think it was easy. That's probably what prompted me to want to do more.
Okay.
Because
They cared.
Yes, they cared. And then I was thinking, after I go home, it's 5 o'clock, I get home by 6 o'clock. What do I do between 6, 7 until...
My students, I know. I need my students listening to sleep.
No. Yeah.
So, why a master's? Why not go and get a job? Why still continue to accumulate more debt?
I would say
in 2020.
Everything you do, I mean, okay, maybe because I come from an accounting background, so my answer will be different. I think everything that I do, usually I tend to think of it from not everything, but most things, from a cost-benefit analysis.
Explain.
For example, and I think it also helps having a goal, not just doing things the way. So I have a little plan, and I'm not sure if you can see this. No, you can. It's fine.
I'm gonna try. I don't know. Can we? No, my.
Maybe you can just take a picture, then you can.
Okay, I will after,
Mm-hmm.
because we're doing this, guerrilla style at the moment. But let's look at her plan.
So my little plan, so it's like a 5-year plan.
Now we keep hearing about these 5-year, 10-year plan, but this young lady actually is putting it. I think it's the accounting background.
I believe so, because most of the time, that's what in terms of, for me to answer this question, I would say, because of my background, it's easier for me to do certain things. So
you're applying theory to life.
To life, yeah. Okay. So because I have a goal and have a plan for that goal, because I have a goal, so having to work for that goal is easier than just having to do things that
Willy-nilly, just because. Exactly. Do you mind sharing one of those goals or key goals? Because we don't want to get into her business too much.
So, ultimately, for my personal career plan, I want to become a portfolio manager.
What is a portfolio manager?
A portfolio manager is primarily someone who looks after a collection of investments.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And in order for you to become a portfolio manager, there are steps that have to be taken.
Such as
you have to get an undergraduate degree.
Okay.
A postgraduate degree.
Okay.
And then a professional qualification.
Which is the
CFA.
And or if you were going the accounting route.
I mean, you can get the accounting, but it will not necessarily help you from that perspective.
Okay.
But I also want to qualify as an accountant in order to, because I have knowledge in both areas, so I would like to maximize my strengths. Because
eventually, Anais, you do want to be an independent wealth investor.
Yes. And independent accountant.
Independent.
Or tax advisor. Because tax is more lucrative than...
Yes. And if I can stop paying all this tax, that would be really nice. But, so what are the steps you want to tell my audience?
So, okay, for me, I just randomly I googled how to become a portfolio manager. So most of the pages that I saw said you have to have an undergraduate degree, postgraduate degree, and then at least the CFA.
Is this only in the UK, or if you want generally speaking
in the world?
Okay.
That kind of role.
Okay.
Because you are for you to become a portfolio manager, you are trusting me with your money. So you want to know and be comfortable that I know what I'm doing.
Yes.
with the money.
So you need to be
So
certified.
you need to be qualified enough to know what you're doing.
Okay, but that is the theoretical, the paper. What are you doing work experience-wise? And I'm asking this because I know that she has little jobs there under her sleeve. So do you want to share?
So, like, with regards to portfolio management, I actually have my own portfolio. It's a personal one.
Okay, this is your investment portfolio.
My investment portfolio in which I invest in different things.
So that's your practice.
Practice, exactly.
And will you show that as evidence of your? Will you show that to an employment?
Not necessarily, but I will speak about it.
Okay.
So if one of the reasons why, if they ask me to explain why do you want to become a portfolio manager, why this kind of role, based on my personal experience, which I've had this portfolio for like so many years, I have been able to consistently have a certain level of return, or how to manage my risk. So which are some, because when it comes to portfolio management, the two measures that are required is risk and return.
Right.
But then in order for you to get to those two measures of risk and return, there are many techniques, and depending on what you want to achieve, those two measurements will change.
Okay.
And those measurements will also change depending on the person whose money you're investing, which is something that you have to learn.
Okay.
And for example, from my dissertation, well, I'm doing a dissertation, but it's more like a project. My project is about how to construct a low volatility portfolio in the UK.
Okay.
Which low volatility is basically a portfolio that has the lowest risk.
I knew that. Because I did get it at first, but when I said low volatility, it's not risky. Volatile means explosive, and if you're dealing with money, yes, you can lose. Low volatility, makes sense.
In finance, there's an assumption that the higher your risk is, the higher your return is, which there's a truth to that. But then there have been some research and evidence which prove otherwise, that you can actually invest in low volatility in instruments or products that have lower risk and still and a higher return.
Okay.
Which is an area which has become very interesting. That's the reason why I want to. Because you want to spend less money and get more. Why not?
Is that always reliable? Is that always?
That's why there are different techniques that you have to put into place in order for you to get.
And you learn this in the theory in the classroom.
This in the classroom, which I also try to implement in my own picking of investment strategies.
And you also have little part-time stints that you do, or temporary jobs that you do.
I do. I mean,
you do people's accounts or organizations at charity or their accounts.
Small business. As I said, I want to be on both sides of the equation. If you need an accountant, call me. If you need an investment advisor, you know who to call. But then, in order for me to be able to support some of these things, I'm involved in a lot of things such as nail businesses, anything beauty related. So
we are the education and lifestyle blog.
Yeah, so doing people's nails, anything manicure, pedicure, and also food. I'm also interested into food, so basically prepping food for other people, cooking food for other people, and getting paid for it. And interested in hair, doing people's hair, getting paid for it.
And that way, she's not building up additional debt.
Exactly.
She's being paid while she is studying. You're using your skills basically.
Yes.
To work for you while you're studying.
Because I've had some part-time jobs throughout my uni life in which I thought, I can get paid more, because why not?
Yes.
And so I stopped working, and I started. No one will see that. So I stopped working in a part-time job in order to do some of these things on the side, which is much more flexible. So I can decide to do. So if somebody calls me today to go and do, let's say, manicure, pedicure, I can tell, maybe not today, tomorrow, depending on how much work I have to do. Yes. But then if it was a part-time job, I have to be there.
Yeah, yes. I picked up from our conversations that you delved into finance further outside of the classroom that weren't into your modules.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing some of this knowledge?
Okay, for example, I'm currently doing a course as well online. Is to become a financial modeling and valuation analyst. So anything that has to do with valuation and modeling.
What brought that up, since it's not one of your modules? Why did you do that? What inspired you to?
What inspired me? I think I like to always have something to do. And because I already know my area of interest, I want to have as many skills as possible. And I think having to go through, I think in my final year I did a module in finance with Excel, which had to do something with modeling. So I thought, I think that kind of sparked an interest,
Yes.
and then I decided to want to develop on that. So I registered to this anywhere free.
It was free?
No.
Was it one of the Udemy courses or something?
No,
like
it's
that?
actually a body, Corporate Finance Institute.
Okay.
Yeah.
UK based?
It's an American.
Okay.
Because, like I said, most of these finance schools are actually American.
All right.
But then they are worldwide. So it covers a broad range of modules. Fixed income analysis, how to value real estate companies, how to value mining companies, renewable energy companies, which are some of the things I will not learn in my current course.
Okay, brilliant. Coming to the end,
Mm-hmm.
you've involved yourself. Have you involved yourself in any projects by your professors to give you that stepping stone? And I ask this question because I have not a former child. I have lots of children. I've been very prolific. Who said she believes her entrance into the tech fin company, and she did not do tech, she did HR, was because she, along with a few others, were on this cutting edge project in terms of human resources, and companies were interested in that because they were looking to develop their human resources. So because she was working on something new and modern, it gave her that stepping stone. Is that similar to you?
I would say yes in a way, because I actually have a professor who, for the world of finance, he's one of the top of the game. And that's actually one of the reasons why I decided to do a master's, because before I did, I researched into some of these areas. And then I consistently saw his name in a lot of the papers that I read, in a lot of just publications in general. So I thought, okay, so if he's in the school that I'm currently in, why not actually go do a master's? And then, because I know if I'm doing this particular master, he will teach me. So
Okay.
that's one of the reasons why I went. And then he does a lot, because he's one of the top in his game, so he does a lot of research and a lot of these things in which he uses his students for some of the research that he needs.
Cheap labor.
I mean, it's good for both of us, because you get to interact with the lecturer or with the professor, and you get to know him more, and you just get yourself known.
And you also get an insight into what's going on currently in the world of finance in your case, and you can add that to your CV.
Because, for example, one of the things I learned through that is that, some countries like Denmark, they offer negative interests.
What's that? What do you mean?
That means they pay you to get a loan. I didn't know that.
Why would they pay you to get a loan? Give me from your financial understanding. Why? Because the idea is you want to manage your debt as an individual. You should see my credit card. You want to manage your debt. Why would they be encouraging you to go into debt? Because to me, that's similar to people here, back organizations picking up the phone and calling you to take out a credit card. Why?
Okay, let me just give another thing that I learned from him. Is, for example, in the energy industry, it's cheaper. I mean, electricity generally is cheaper for them to pay you.
Okay. To do
Okay,
what?
for example, let's say a solar panel or something like that. It's cheaper. So let's say a company wants to work with solar panels and all of those things. So if they have to turn it off, the cost of turning it off and turning it back on is more than having to pay somebody to just have electricity.
Yeah. Okay.
So those kind of situations. So which one is cheaper to do?
Okay.
So it would be cheaper for them to pay you to do, let's say, to keep your electricity on, than it is for them to turn it off. The solar
so
panel.
It's cheaper for them to pay me to take out the loan than to.
I mean, let's say when it comes to negative interest rate, if you're taking a mortgage, well, they don't pay you per se, but then your monthly payment reduces.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So instead of having to pay, let's say, because normally if you take out a loan like a mortgage and then the interest rate increase, depending on the type of mortgage you have your interest, your payments may also increase. But then if the payments, the interest rate is negative, so your payment decrease throughout the tenure of your loan.
And
But then some people argue that it's more of a cash cow system for the government.
In what way?
Because that money that is being negative will be collected elsewhere. But then for people from the loan who are taking the mortgages, they are benefiting from it, but then that money will be recouped elsewhere.
By probably more expensive products somewhere else.
Something, yeah.
Or your house value may be less. Interesting.
That's, but usually with finance, economics, and all of this, in order for something to be working well in one area, somewhere else has to be sacrificed.
Okay.
So it just
Yes.
depends on.
And that's life.
That's not,
You don't get something for nothing. In summary,
Mhm.
what would you advise, or what advice would you give to any aspiring or potential university student
Mhm.
that you think they should know
I would say,
to get the most out of their studies? What advice would you give?
I would say, don't just go to university with the mindset of having to party. There's a time for that, but get your money's worth. So get involved in societies, network with people, and because there are a lot of things that throughout the years I didn't actually get because of my own abilities. It's only because the lecturer thought, oh, this student actually tries to make an effort for my class.
Okay, so you got incentives because lecturers picked up your work ethic.
Yes.
Okay.
So as much as you want to party, make sure that you do work on your work ethics because it's going to be necessary for outside. Because for example, my lecturer, he will always willingly write a reference for me
Mhm.
because he knows my work ethics.
Mhm.
And so he said, oh, if you need help with having to apply for this, just come and see me. I'm free. I have time and everything.
Mhm.
Which is not the case, let's say, for my other friends. I mean, which we can say there's a little bit of a bias there,
Mhm.
but we have to understand the reality is if you show that you care about something, they also are likely to help you. Because I know a lot of people who have told me about stories which they are in such situations because the lecturers or somebody they know have just said, oh yeah, I know this person has good work ethic, so then.
And funny enough, this is what I tell my students. It's not so much whether you like your teacher.
That's what I was going to say next.
It is important that you try to have a good relationship with all of your
I
teachers.
agree.
But we are human.
Mhm.
And if we are seeing the evidence there that you are putting in the work,
Mhm.
we are going to do our job. We are going to help everyone. But we will do over and above if you're showing an interest.
Yeah.
You're asking the questions. You're coming up, you're saying, excuse me a second, or sir, I know you're busy, but can we have some time to go over that? I didn't understand it. You know, yes, you have to manage personalities because not everybody is approachable or, you know, but you can read us. You often know when we come in not so good a mood or when you assume we're not so, but it's how you work with people. And you are learning this, whether or not you know it, in school, because you have your friends, your friendship groups that you fall out with and that you love and you fall out with and some you never agree with and how you deal with your teachers. You are learning people's skills all the time. Use it to your benefit. And that's all I wish to say because that's the truth.
Yeah.
That they will look and see which students are working well because like that professor, he's doing research. He cannot do it all on his own. He needs the help. He's going to look for his best students, all those students who have a particular work ethic or particular skill and interest in a particular area. That benefits him and it benefits you, the student. And you're building social capital.
Yeah. So I'll give you two quick stories. For example, that particular professor, because if in class, I don't know much of what's going on, but in class, when nobody answers the question, I'll say, okay, I don't mind trying, even if it's wrong.
Mhm.
And then I remember after he marked all of our coursework, so I went to see him feedback, and then he said, oh, after looking at my coursework, he said, oh, okay. He said, you know, and then I said, sir, I'm looking for jobs after this, yeah. He said, okay, you know, if you don't find a job after making 150 applications, I don't know why. Come and see me, and I'll help you. And I was thinking, if I never actually made an effort, he probably would not have said such a thing.
Mhm.
You get what I mean? On Tuesday, one of my lecturers, who I remember that particular lecturer, we don't really like him that much, but I remember one day I didn't turn up for his lecture, and then I went to see him and I said, sorry sir, I did not come to your lecture. And then one of my classmates said, oh, but why did you say that why did you have to apologize for the fact that you didn't go?
Good
I
manners.
said it's just for the sake of maintaining a relationship. And 2 days ago we are working on a project which I have no clue on how to get forward.
Mhm.
And then he walked to us and then he said, oh, if you need help, come and see me because I know how this particular software works. So I think having to
Common courtesy goes a long way. Common courtesy in 2020 goes
Yeah.
a long way.
It really goes a long way. And then I think it has a lot to do with the fact of the way I interact with him, even though a lot of students do not necessarily like him. So
Yeah.
now he said, oh, if you need help, come and see me because I know how this particular software works, which I don't know how it works.
Yeah. And you see, we get caught up, students, you get caught up with, I don't like so-and-so.
Mhm.
Why don't you like so-and-so? maybe they're not jokey enough. Maybe they have a dry, sarcastic remark. Then don't do anything to, get the dry, sarcastic remark.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, yes, personalities just don't blend. But at the same time, once you are not being disrespected,
Yeah.
you really owe that lecturer, that teacher, the respect. You don't have to like them. Liking and respecting are two different things. And just showing the basics, you may actually realize they're not that bad. Two, you're gaining more. So I think that's a brilliant note to end on. I would like to thank Anais
Thank
Pezzana very, very much. Be the first ex-student on Learning Strategist. And I do hope this has been beneficial to you, because I certainly learned a thing or two. I'm going to have to listen to this again, because I think I'm taking some nuggets here. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you for